Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and today is April 7th, and we got a lot of electric vehicle news. Seems like that's the trend these days. But
Yeah, I mean, well, electric trucks, not so much yet. We're seeing some electrification, but this is exciting. Is the brand new Hummer EV SUV? We saw the truck a few months ago, but this is the SUV version, which is different. It's not like the original, like the H2 truck or the H1 truck or the H3 truck, where they started off with an SUV and cut off the back and called it a truck, but gave it like a 2.5 foot long bed. Um, so this, we have it the other way around, where we started off with the truck with a 5 foot proper 5 foot mid-sized bed, and now we have the shorter version, which is the SUV, similar to what you get with like Tacoma and Forerunner. Think of it that way. You're going to get a lot better breakover angle, less overhang, so better off-road maneuverability, which obviously is what these Hummers are all about. So pretty cool, I think. Good to see it side by side. You can see basically B pillar back. It's noticeably longer with the truck. Now the size has its benefits too, because we are getting a bigger battery, more power on the pickup truck versus slightly smaller on the SUV.
830 horsepower still. So, like, yes, it's less, but it's
It's still 830.
it's still 830. You're
And-
absolutely fine.
and infinite torque,
Yeah, the
sort of.
in GM's media information, they said it makes 11,500 foot-pounds, which of course it doesn't actually, like, it does in a way. It just depends on where you're measuring it from. But at the crank per se, not the actual crank, as it doesn't have a
Mhm.
crank, it's a lot less than that. You're looking at
Yeah.
maybe about 1,000 or so. But of course, the real numbers are hard to say without actual measurements.
Yeah, it'll be a 3 motor setup. So what, two in the back, one in the front, something like that. Uh, and there will be an off-road package, extreme off-road package. But even without the off-road package, we're still getting standard 13-inch suspension travel, 35-inch tires as standard, and a fording depth of over 2 feet. So that's pretty impressive. But the off-road package is going to give you a lot more underbody protection, rock sliders, underbody cameras, which is really nice for. I mean, even on a smaller vehicle, that's nice to have, seeing what's underneath you. And these trucks will take a 37-inch tire, apparently, from factory. So,
Yeah, without any
de-
modification.
yeah, they say depending on, like, obviously your offset matters and stuff like that, but they are designed to take a 37-inch tire, which is huge for kind of a daily usable vehicle, I want to say.
Yeah, I can see that. Some other cool things with the SUV version, um, there is a generator on board which can provide a charge output for your other EVs.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't. I mean, why would you deplete your own battery for someone else? I don't know. But it's available for you, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
it's not cheap. But like we were talking about this a little bit before the show kind of started here, and we are thinking, yes, it's not cheap, but it's not that bad. Because you were saying, like, in terms of comparing this to like the Land Rover Defender or like the G Wagon, it's basically the same. I mean, the G Wagon
It's
actually
a
costs
lot cheaper than a
a
G-Wagon.
lot more.
Yeah,
But a
and I mean,
Defender is
even with what Cybertruck, when we have go up to the 3 motor Cybertruck,
Mhm.
we're up there as well, as at
Yeah.
least projected. So I think for what it is, it's pretty reasonable. I mean, the EVs generally are just more expensive, just because the tech is still relatively new, and this is the same, maybe a little bit more than where we saw the H2 a decade ago. But same segment, I would say. You're talking, fully loaded Escalade kind of price point. This is around there as well, which I
Mhm.
think is where the H2 was.
So what they've done, like with most EVs, is they place a battery within the floor. It's actually quite a unique setup. It's a double stack tier, so you have one stack right on the base and one stack on top of that. It does raise like the floor within the vehicle itself, but it gives you a more of a flat floor within the vehicle, which is kind of cool. There's 10 modules, I believe, within the SUV, and I just think like, having a low center of gravity like that in an off-road scenario, it's really going to be, you know, quite somewhat of like an advantage compared to like regular internal combustion engines.
Mhm. It's cool that we talk about like performance cars have this advantage with battery technology, and now we're seeing that roll over to off-road technology, uh, having that lower center of gravity. Now, weight is a concern. The heavier you are, the worse it is. But we're comparing it to the original Hummers; those were very heavy. H2 over 6,000 pounds, and as long as you have the necessary underbody protection, uh, and it's safe to run underwater a little bit, safe to get a little bit wet, then I think we should be good. And one other thing with the off-road package, yeah, rock sliders are standard. Well, not standard, part of that package, and also a front e-locker and rear virtual lockers. So I don't know if that's just some kind of software to match the speed. But with EV, I guess you do have more control as far as how power is distributed, compared to a traditional differential. So I'm curious how that will play out too, as far as terrain management systems. I think having a fully electric car, there's some advantages there, because we are talking software, and the thing is hardware can get you. A lot of people chase that hardware. I want triple lockers, I want 37-inch tires. That's all well and good, but software actually gets you a lot of the way. And in a lot of comparisons, we see, the cars with really good software, like a Range Rover full size, or that's where you see it just kind of more effortless compared to something that, okay, it's got triple lockers and you just mash the throttle and then you get out of a situation.
Mhm.
um, Seems like software has its advantage as well, but this seems to have both impressive hardware and software, well, potential for software advantages, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of mending that package together. We were
Mhm.
talking about this, I think, like last week. We're watching this YouTube channel called SUV Reviews, where they have
SUV battle.
SUV battles. That's right, and they have a lot of different vehicles on there where they just test the vehicles out. I mean, it's not fair in any way. They have different tires all throughout, but it's unique to see like brand new Hyundai Santa Fe's and just how the software management can take that SUV up those slippery slopes. Whereas something that's a little bit older, like the Honda Pilot or the Highlander, just couldn't do it. It's still just a basic front wheel drive based all wheel drive system,
Yep.
but Hyundai was able to do more with its software, with the brakes, with all the systems that it has to push the vehicle up. And I
Yeah, and
think,
I mean, yeah, I think that it's just the risk of damage is lower the way the software driven cars get out of a situation.
yeah, exactly. I mean, those with Chevy pickups with the G80 lockers know exactly how much like it jolts through the entire chassis when that rear locker locks up. It's not a fun experience. I've
Mhm.
taken a Silverado off road, and I was like, okay, I'm hung in the air, apply a little bit of throttle, nothing happens. You have to apply like medium throttle. The outside tire spun, then it just locked and took all that power to the other tire that had traction. It just wasn't smooth.
Yeah, and I mean, this got four-wheel steering as well, and the capability to do what's called diagonal drive. So I guess having the wheels turned the same way and it just moves, the crab walk they call it. I think that's pretty neat. What else? I mean, it's pretty neat. I mean, check out the pictures. It is visually a Hummer. I mean, I don't think it does look like a Hummer for the 21st century. It just that's I think it makes a lot of sense. I think for a lot of people that were chasing those kind of G-Wagon, whatever, as not for off-roading per se, but just for a daily driving vehicle that's super rugged, and you're getting a lot of range out of this. Even the SUV with the smaller batteries, you're going to get 480k plus, and over 560k range out of the pickup. So it's really respectable range, and it's gonna save so much fuel for someone who's just using this to commute and go to work and just want something cool to drive in. Compared to what's out there even today, everything is still pretty not great on gas, I would say. That's of this variant, at least, of just like a rugged off-road vehicle. And I think this is just night and day compared to what you can get right now. Obviously, ones to look out for: Cybertruck, as we mentioned, Rivian, if that ever comes to fruition. They have something in the pipeline, but yeah, I think GM, big automaker, they know what they're doing. They with trucks at least, except for the current, the last Silverado, but we won't talk about that.
I wanted to spend a moment to talk about the interior of the Hummer here. It actually looks really, really nice and fancy. It's kind of what you expect in a lot of GM products. The interior kind of reminds me of like the Cadillacs and whatnot. There's some pieces I can see that has been used in terms of like how visually it looks at least. But of course, it definitely has a very Hummer vibe. Everything's very upright. Everything's very, flat and straight edge. There's no curves with this interior. But I think it's a nice looking interior, and you get this amazing roof, which is completely removable. So you can be out in the elements, which is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's something that's not offered on the G-Wagon or the Defender. So having that convertible T-top, whatever you want to call it, option, I think in this segment is pretty neat.
I mean, the only one that does it is like the Wrangler, the Bronco, and that's it.
Exactly.
But in terms of how the off-road proudness would be, I think those three will be very comparable: the Hummer, the Bronco, as well as the Wrangler. Like, you can spec a Wrangler up to like 80k or so. It's expensive when you start specking it out. And the Bronco, it's about the same. So I'll be very, very, very intrigued to see a comparison between the three, because I think it'll show exactly what EVs can do compared to the more traditional standard internal combustion engine vehicles.
Yeah, and my only concern is, and I feel like this is what all the old school guys would say, is what happens when this breaks down? Like there's no, I'm guessing there's no real like neutral or whatever. Let's say all the software fails and you're out in the bush. What do you do when that's always a concern? With an off-road vehicle, you need it to be super dependable. That's why Toyota trucks have always succeeded and have just some crazy following, because they just want something that they know will not let them down.
Well, I mean, because they don't want to change ever.
True, that too. I think Toyota truck people, they're a different breed. they're very they don't mind buying the same thing over and over again.
No, they don't.
Which I honestly don't know why anyone would still buy a 2021 Tacoma. It's not improved from 15 years ago.
Or Tundra.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
let's not get too off topic, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's not anger our 36 viewers. Whatever. Yeah. Let's
Overall,
keep it, yeah.
I like where this is going. I like that the brand is coming back. I think Hummers were cool back then. I always loved Hummer H1s because it was just amazing to look at. I remember watching DMX he was buying a Lamborghini. He drove in with a Hummer. I think that was Exit Wounds. I think it was. Anyways, it was a movie from a long time ago, and I was like, oh, Hummers are so cool. And then the H2 came out, and I was like, it's kind of cool, I guess. And then the H3 came out, and I was like, oh, that's not cool at all.
Yeah, it's not very cool. They kind of tried to save it, but yeah, it didn't work out. But Hummer, the whole brand died during that recession and gas crisis, and it stood for something that was very wasteful, and it's like talking about our North American culture and just how we are with resources. That's kind of when global warming and all these discussions started heating up. Hummer had to go. Like it just stood for the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So I know why that brand had to die, but now looking back at it, the H2 is pretty neat. And
we were looking on Craigslist before the show just to see how much they were.
Yeah, it's a super capable truck, and it's a normal GM heavy duty underpinning, so parts are readily available. So yeah, I mean, now from a used perspective, that car makes sense, but from brand new during the 03 to 2009 when that car was available, it uh wasn't a good time to be a big gas guzzling SUV that offered very little practicality. That's the thing, right? Like, F-150 or a Ram or a Sierra, that's fine. Those are work trucks, but the H2 was excess.
Yeah, it just it had bling at that show, and that was really what it was about. So GM, of course, they created this Hummer with this new, I believe they call it, what's the battery technology? I forgot the name.
The one that started with a U, yeah.
Yeah, Ultium battery pack, I believe.
Ultium drive.
They're not just going to leave it for the Hummer. It's going to pave the way for brand new GM products. And the next one that's receiving this is a Silverado pickup truck. There's no information on this other than a picture that has Silverado on it with a blue E, obviously, because that's the only way to tell that it is an electric vehicle. But the only thing that they're able to say right now, it's going to have 400 miles on a full charge, which is pretty good. It's pretty decent. But that's, of course, on a regular drive. When you start towing, when you start hauling, you're not going to get 400 miles out of it. But this will be probably the entryway for GM to get into an electric vehicle. It's based off a Silverado, so it's going to compete against the F-150, which is ultimately the number one player.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a super important vehicle for GM, and GM is no slouch in the EV arena. Like for the last decade, they've been quietly making pretty cool products, and just very how you say, very approachable products. I would say they're not they're catered for the mass market. They're EV vehicles and also plug-in hybrid. Like the Bolt and the Volt that's now gone, but that was in its time it made sense because people weren't 100% sure about electric technology. The Volt being the range extender style technology, that was a lot easier to step into. But I think the Bolt is solid range for what it is, and it's affordable price point. And so yeah, GM quietly is leading the charge in some arenas with electrification, I think.
Hmm. But what they are doing is they're killing off one of their own. So in the news, it's not on their press website. Obviously, they don't want to mention it there. But one of the biggest things that they have is a 1LE package for the Camaro. As an owner,
Yeah.
or previous owner, I should say, of a Camaro 1LE SS, I want to know how you feel about this, because I drove the 1LE 4-cylinder and I thought it was quite good. And I personally really wanted a Camaro 1LE V6 because, like, an SS is great, it has a lot of power, but I just feel like the V6 is usable power, where
Mm.
someone like myself who doesn't track can use it on the road and enjoy it. The 1LE for the 4-cylinder, man, it needed a little bit more. But the V6, I think, was that middle spot, but both are gone.
Yeah, I mean the 1LE, for those who aren't familiar, is it's a track pack with, better brakes, better suspension, magnetic ride on some of the models,
Mag
not
ride
all of
on the
them.
V6, not on the
On the
4-cylinder.
V6. Okay. So really good chassis setups, but I think it's not really the car for a lot of people. I think it was, it's a car that we want to have, 1LE in a base model. I mean, Mustang still does it. EcoBoost, you can still get your performance and track packs
Yep.
with the
PP2.
fancy brakes. Um, but they've killed off the V6 pretty much on the Mustang, if not
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
So that's one less engine to deal with. It's just one less oddball skew. The problem with the 1LE, I think, is the hood.
The
It's
black
just,
hood.
yeah, I think it's controversial to say the least. It works on some colors better than it does on others, but dealers don't want to stock these kind of oddball spec cars. I
Mhm.
think Grassroots Motorsports, it's cool and all, but how many people are? I mean, it's still talking about a $40,000 car. Um, and I was just talking to my friend about it earlier this week. He asked me about the SS1LE, and the SS is actually quite approachable in terms of power. It's a V8, but for power to weight, it's not insane. 450 horsepower for a 3,800 pound car with big, huge tires and really good chassis tuning. That car is super easy to drive.
Mm.
So I don't know if there was a need for this, because of what 4-cylinder 1LE was a little over 40,000, I think,
Something like that. Yeah.
and my SS1LE was 48. So I think the SS and the ZL1s, they make sense in the 1LE. I think with the 4-cylinder, it's just, if you're gonna spend 40, you might as well spend 50 for a track special at least, because you're gonna try to chase that power and reliability elsewhere, and you're just not gonna get out of a 4-cylinder or V6. So I think that's why they don't have the same appeal.
Mhm.
SS1LE prices are still insane. They're more than what they were new for a lot of them, or as much as they were. I got what I paid for it for trade-in. So
Oh,
just
wow.
to put it in perspective. So um, yeah, that was a cool package. But
Yeah. The
yeah, for a
one
track
LE pack.
special.
So the one LE pack with the one LT, so the V6 is 38,000.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm just on the website configuring it, and then oh with the 2 liter. Oh, I think I gotta do the one LT 2 liter. That is 35.
Oh, that's cheap.
35,000
Yeah,
for the
I'm
2 liter with the 1LE pack.
yeah. I think that is a good buy at the end of the day. It's what the experienced buyer would go for, and that's why you see guys like Randy Pope's pushing these cars. You got
Oh, he
Area
loves his
27,
yeah.
Area 27, the racing school, they use these 1LEs. They have all of the 1LEs, I think, but they do start you off with one of the lower 1LEs. Um, and yeah, so when you have that experience and the maturity to go for something like that, it makes sense. But at the same time, people are generally Camaro itself is a low volume car, and people are buying them mostly to flex and stunt and whatever
Yeah,
you want to call it.
and the V8 is like, it's almost like when you buy a Mustang and you don't buy the GT, people just rag on you. It's 53K for the SS1LE.
Mm.
Looks so good though.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the engine GM's known for.
Yeah,
Uh, is their V8 is their bread and butter performance car at least.
yeah.
But the four cylinder is respectable, completely respectable car. I just don't know if knowing like the typical track day people, they don't like to spend on something like that. They want to start off with the lightest chassis possible. Um, and then it's not so much the dollar value, I think, at that point. It's they just want to start off with stuff like the ND or our next
Or
topic.
our next topic, which is a great segue,
Yeah.
the GR86.
Yeah. These are the cars that you flood the track day pits with, right? The FT86 chassis, when it's been out for almost 8-9 years now.
Long time.
Super popular car, cheap, reliable, um, light. But no, I think the Camaro makes a lot of sense for me. If you want something uh, more experienced driver would probably go for the Camaro. Just it's got a different balance and way more torque. That's a thing. You can learn real FR balance when you have torque.
Hmm.
But yeah, for
I
something you
feel
have to live with though, 8.6 all the way.
daily driving, just having fun. The 8.6 has a lot of value in there. I mean, it's
Hmm.
cheap motoring. It really is. It's basically the Miata recipe, except not a convertible. Um, I personally loved the previous gen BRZ and 86. But of course, like a lot of people complained, yes, it had that torque curve, but if you're not driving it that hard, or you're not, within that cusp of, dip, it's not that bad. Like, I
It's
personally
pretty
didn't find it that
slow.
bad.
I
It's
just we
slow.
just put we just put ours away for storage, so I just drove it 2 nights ago. I'm just parking at my girlfriend's driveway right now. And that thing, so it's all tuned, it's got headers, 160 wheel horsepower. It's slow, like
Yeah, but
uh
it's not designed to be fast, right? Like, it's supposed to be fun. But I think the biggest thing for it is it wasn't that fun. Yes, it was fun, but it wasn't as fun as a Miata, especially the ND2 when it got its horsepower bump, because it just didn't get enough torque. And it's not just like the torque dip itself, it's just overall torque was low. But the new GR86 has more power. There's 232 horsepower, and there's more torque at 184 now.
bigger
So
engine,
yeah,
2.4,
it's a
so
2.4, so you don't have the 86 bore and 86 stroke like you did before. That's fine. You don't get that little bit of trivia there, but I think this will just make it a lot more fun. And in their not independent, sorry, in Toyota's testing, it's supposed to be a second faster than the outgoing model, which is
that's huge, yeah.
in complete pace with ND2, which is, everyone that drives an ND2 loves it. So this should be a very, very good car.
Yeah, it's stiffer, a lot stiffer actually.
Mhm.
It looks very proportionally. It's quite similar than the old one. I think
It's
the
a s-
wheels look a little bit undersized for me. Like the tire overall, the way it fills out the vehicle, I think
yeah.
it's a little bit small. How do you like this styling?
So okay, I'm gonna go back to the side image here because there's something that's important I want to say about the styling. If we block off the front and the rear, the middle part, just look at that, and then look at a current FRS or BRZ or 86 is exact same.
They're the same
So
picture.
if you don't know, this, yes, while it's brand new, the middle part of it really is the same. They upgraded a lot, of course. Like Justin said, there is structural integrity that was strengthened, but it's basically the same. The front end, I don't mind that much. The rear end, we talked about this a little bit ago. It kind of looks like an NSX or like Acura
Has an Acura look.
vibe to it.
Yeah.
I don't mind the front end, honestly. I think it looks fine. I like the BRZ front end more than the Toyota. Um,
I'm like indifferent. I think the BRZ is a little bit more cheerful. The
yeah,
86 is a little bit slightly more aggressive, but either way, you're not going to keep that front end too stocked. You're going to slap a lip on it very shortly. And
yeah,
the only news about this, so the BRZ was announced a couple weeks ago, and we got a bunch of review videos on it and stuff like that. But the news here is just that the name is the Toyota GR86.
mhm.
And supposedly they're saying it's going to have a distinct driving feel against the BRZ, but they said that about the last one when they came out. Oh, the suspension is tuned differently. I could not for the life of me tell the difference between the two. Like they felt exactly the same. I'm sure there's like a minute
Ju-
difference in like spring rates or whatever,
Justin,
but
it's because you're not Sutia. That's why.
exactly. I think for your average driver, you're not gonna feel like these are two different cars with
No,
two different personalities, despite what Toyota's marketing team wants to tell us.
honestly, the difference here between the two vehicles is how they look and the features that they give you. Like the last 86, like the BRZ, you can get smart key access, whereas the Toyota didn't. Like those are the features that you're looking for in a BRZ, which you may get. Actually, you may get
Hmm.
with the 86 or GR86 now.
Yeah,
We don't
I'm
know.
guessing you would at this
Hopefully,
price point. Let's
but
take a look at the interior too. Let's
yeah,
talk a little bit about that.
let's move to that picture.
I like the rear end actually, uh, even if it looks a bit accurate.
Okay, so good news is Toyota 86 interior, the GR86 does have a start stop button, which means
Yeah.
it should have smart key as well. Center console is exact same as current. You have the really awkwardly placed heated and heated seat controls, which is just in line with your elbows. You're able to toggle it when you shift. It's great. But manual e-brake, so you can have some fun there.
Yeah. And it looks
Lexus
like you could
IS.
swap that radio out
Yeah, that
relatively.
looks like a double din right there.
That's it's oversized for sure. I think that looks like maybe an 8 or 9 inch, but the way it mounts, it looks very aftermarket friendly.
Mhm.
The knobs, the climate control looks a lot better.
Like, they look exactly the same as the BRZ ones.
Yeah. And overall, I don't know. I think it's decent.
The real thing to talk about here is, of course, it has a Lexus IS inspired vents in the middle, so that's very similar to Lexus ones. But the biggest upgrade is the digital dash or cluster, I should
Hmm.
say, which is very similar to the Supra.
Supra, I think is got the 3 Series cluster.
Is it the 3 Series? I thought the Supra still
Yeah.
had a rev counter in the center.
I guess it may be a different theme, but
It's been a while. I don't remember Supra
yeah. But
cluster.
this does look very Toyota, Lexus in that family. It does get the steering controls back, so just like the since the BRZ and FRS got their or the 86, I should say, got their facelift, they added back steering controls for volume and cruise control and whatnot. Actually, no,
Wow.
cruise control is still the little toggle
Yep.
stick.
You still get the
It's
traditional
very
Toyota.
old school 15, 20-year-old Toyota
Yeah.
toggle stick.
Yeah. So the only thing that you're controlling on there is volume up, down, probably your source,
And the
track forward and
multifunction
back,
display.
and then the display on the cluster. And that's it.
Yeah. But no, that's fine. That's kind of what you expect.
It's all you need.
This car is now a little bit old school, even though we can't buy it yet. It does almost feel a little bit old school. That compared to 10 years ago, we're not too far ahead.
No, definitely not. But
but it's okay keeping it simple.
I think that's what it is. It's gonna keep it simple. It's a basic sports car that people can go in, buy, and have fun. I think this will take a little bit more of that Miata chunk.
Yes,
especially those that are looking for the RF, the hardtop version. I mean,
I think as far as enthusiasts go, you don't have that much choice for around 30, brand new.
No.
And so as far as an FR car that's livable, right? A lot of the obstacle with the ND is it's a 2-seater. The trunk is okay, but it's a 2-seater and you can't fold down. There's no seats or anything.
Yeah,
it's quite a small car. It's good on gas. I mean, it will work for some people's daily lifestyle, but I think people kind of got spoiled with practicality, and that's one of the reasons why the ND is not as popular as when the NA or NB was around. I would say that did not have as big of a practicality obstacle, but now real estate is as expensive as it is. It's not practical to have a second car, and so if you were to only have one, this car is still a lot more livable, and that's always been compelling for the 86, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it looks cool.
I think it looks cool. I can't wait to drive it, but let's move on here.
Yeah.
Jeep Compass.
Wasn't really expecting this. New Jeep Compass, born to surprise. It's not new, it's a facelift. And the Compass, honestly, it's one of those cars that we don't really care about too much in North America, but it is making waves in Europe. This car, and I see it. I actually see it, like whenever I see European videos, you always start to see these newer Jeeps in the background, and you're like, oh, they're actually taking off. The biggest seller in Italy, at least, is the 4xe. This was the first car to get that badge back in, I think, 2017. So they've been pushing plug-in hybrid for a while with Jeep Compass, and I mean it makes sense. I mean this car here seems a little bit small, right? We want something at least Cherokee size, CRV RAV4. This size in Europe, they call it a C segment SUV. It makes more sense over there, and it's cool to see that Jeep is succeeding elsewhere.
Yeah, I think
a
it
good
looks
looking facelift.
It's a pretty good looking front end. Like it's a baby Grand Cherokee here.
Mm-hmm.
I never mind the Compass. I just thought it was too small for my family's needs, but it's not bad at all. But the real big news here is not so much the outside, but the interior.
Yeah, I think it's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, let's see if I can grab a full interior view here.
They've got different trims. So this press release has this higher end trim, which tons of Napa leather, contrast stitching. It just feels a lot more premium than the
previous, which is
the plastic
molded
honestly,
dash.
The old one was not terrible for what this car starts at.
No,
but the new one is a big step up.
The screen is big enough before. It was the 8.4-inch Uconnect system. It's fine for what it is, but when you look at the new one, it just looks like it
It's a
belongs
lot more
now.
premium. Yeah.
Yeah, and this it reminds me
Yeah.
a lot of the CX-30.
You always have to bring up the
It
CX-30.
I'm living with a CX-30, so that's my go-to comparison right now. It looks a
Yeah.
lot like it, like the vent, how it goes through, the screen goes on top of the dash. It's just very similar,
I
and I
like it.
don't
It
mind that.
looks
It
it
looks
has
good.
a open feeling too, which
Yeah,
is nice. But yeah, I don't think the old one was too bad for what it was, but this new one, it's impressive. I think we see some of the lower trim. Even in the lower trim, it looks decent. Some areas the door cards are still they got to cheap out somewhere,
yeah, oh yeah,
but
for sure.
this is very respectable, and it's got tech too, right? We got pretty cool digital cluster. We've got level 2 autonomous self-driving, and this is something. Yeah, this is not an embarrassing car anymore. I remember the original
Oh,
Patriot and the Compass.
Patriot Compass combo.
Those were
Yeah,
those were embarrassing. The Dodge Nitro,
with the
like
CVT.
CVT and Freedom. I don't know what they called the all-wheel drive system, but it was not the real like Jeep all-wheel
No,
drive system. Um, yeah, terrible on gas, but dirt cheap. I think they
yeah,
were like 15, 16
yeah.
base
Well,
price.
they were
Yeah.
priced accordingly to the product that it was.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to put this into perspective too, right? Like the Compass compares against that right now the Japanese manufacturers don't have. Well, there's a new Kicks, I guess. Is this Qashqai or Kicks? This is
This is
kind of
probably more Qashqai because it's all-wheel
yeah,
drive. The Kicks doesn't have that.
right. Yeah, so Qashqai. Um this is comparable, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
But we don't know if we're getting all these upgrades, but I assume they're coming to North America as well. This press release is mostly focused on the European market, but yeah, I think it's cool. I think
yeah.
it's a good facelift. Like this is how you want to do a facelift. Like this car now feels relevant again, which is exactly what you want out of a facelift. There's a lot of times when they facelift a car and you're like, I still don't care about it, but this feels relevant,
Yeah, absolutely,
appropriate.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's almost like Nissan when they facelifted the 370Z a little bit. They're like, hey, here's you know the Nismo package. It's going to cost
yeah.
you 10 grand more, but
And
you'll
then
want
here's the garbage package for you get a backup cam in the rearview mirror
it.
and no Bluetooth and like standard single piston sliding calipers. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think this is the Compass itself. It's going to be cool. I think when it comes to North America, it should make decent impact. As here in North America, that segment, that smaller compact SUV, is taking off. I mean, we see tons of new vehicles within that range. The CX-30, the Crosstrek. Um, what else is there? The
I mean, let's put
Qashqai.
this into the domestic brands. The Ford EcoSport, that's a little bit smaller than this, but that
Yeah.
is very, to me, it's a depressing car.
Oh, I thought you're
Uh,
just gonna say straight up trash.
it's pretty sad. And then we've got some Buicks and Chevys scattered here and there, but they're equally forgettable. The Compass is the only one that I even recognize, like out of the domestic brand. Like, oh, okay, that's a Compass. That's Um, I think it's a decent product. I think Jeep crossover it just makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
It makes sense
Uh,
that they killed off the Dart too. I mean, this is a better car.
you're just hurting me now. I like the Dart. Um, let's not talk about the Dart because let's talk about safety. Because moving on to our video of the week, I didn't have a video posted for a review, but I did post a video for a dash cam video, which
Mm.
I got you to help me with essentially.
Yeah.
So essentially, I have a long-term loaner from Mazda Canada. This is the CX-30 Turbo that they're giving me for a month or month and a half, 2 months. And I'm just testing it with my family. I want to see exactly how well it works in a family environment. But one thing I always want in my vehicles, it's safety. And of course, CX-30 has all the safety features that you need. It's an IIHS safety top safety pick plus or whatever it's called. But the car's parked on the street. I want to make sure that if anything was to happen to it, it's recorded. If, when I'm driving, someone sideswipes me, it's recorded. That's what a dash cam is for. So thanks to Justin and the good folks at Overdrive here, I got a dash cam installed in the CX-30, and now it's recording basically all the time.
Yeah, so ThinkWare FA200, it's super affordable.
How much
and it just
is
gives
it
you
actually?
that peace of mind. Well, we usually do this bundle for about 360 plus tax, so
That's
just
pretty
about
good.
$400 installed, taxes in everything. You're getting a front and rear system with this 720p rear camera, so a little bit lower end on the rear, but you get what you pay for. I think it's a good, reliable system. I don't think we've even had any go bad. We sell probably like 2 a day, and they don't go bad. Um, they're super dependable. And the thing is, yeah, I always tell people, don't worry too much about it. Just get something that works. Because yeah, these cars aren't gonna have them from factory, and even the few cars that do, they're iffy system. They're kind of in a beta testing phase. We've a lot of cars that we're seeing, integrated dash cam option with the factory cameras. Whether or not you can count on it, whether or not you can intuitively check it, and if it tells you that it's working, I think those are really important. Once you have one, you can't go back, right? Like I think that's something that you experience with the press cars, is that for that limited amount of time, if you don't have that camera, you're like, well, what if someone cuts me off, and what if someone changes lanes into me, brake checks me, or just falls asleep at the wheel. And um, those are things that the safety tech can only get you so far. Crash safety, yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine in most cases, but yeah, it's just, there's bad drivers out there, and you don't want to be screwed over by your insurance company because of someone else carelessness.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure we've all heard of someone buying someone out in terms of like buying like a potential witness that really wasn't even there. I mean, we've heard
Yeah.
of stories like that. And when they do get this, this witness that really wasn't there, you're going to be at fault because this witness that the other person paid off, it's just going to say everything to
Yeah.
go against you, right? But
And you know
this,
what? Even in the best case scenario, they don't do that. It's your word against theirs. ICBC has no choice but to call it a 50-50.
50-50.
So
Yeah.
in
And you don't
either
want that.
case, you're screwed, because you either get a 50-50 or 100% fault. But either way, if you're a decent human being, it's not going to work out for you in the whole way this insurance business is structured. You're at the losing end if you don't protect yourself. And like I said, it's super affordable. If you were to just get the front camera of this, it's about under $300 tax in, which is cheaper than typical insurance deductible. It's going to last you a long time. The only thing you do need to change out every now and then is the memory card. They do fail eventually. Usually we
Just
tell
with the constant
customers
writing on it.
year and a half to 2 years. Yeah, it's always deleting. Every minute it's deleting a file and writing a new file. So it does put a lot of stress, and it gets quite hot. So memory card, just stay on top of that. Even if whatever camera you have, always check the memory card. Check your videos I would say at least every 2-3 months. If you see crazy drivers out there, just review that, load it on your computer, and then that way you're on top of whether your
Or
camera's
just
working.
connect it through your phone. Super
Exactly.
easy.
So with a nicer camera like this FA200, you can just do the Wi-Fi and check your videos that way, and it will talk to you too. It tells you that the systems are functional. That's the thing about factory system is I've seen these factory systems. Some of them work better than others. I think Tesla makes one of the better ones out there. But even then, I've had so many friends just come back to me like the camera, the Tesla system, I had it turned on. It just the Sentry mode, but it didn't record anything. Because you can't, or you kind of forget about it. I think that's the nice thing about the dash cam, and that's why we have customers that have Model 3s, Model Ys, Model anything, and they will still add a secondary camera because in the event that your first camera fails or the main camera fails in the car, that you have something to back you up.
Yeah.
So,
And ultimately, that's the safety that you want, right? When you're driving around, you just don't want anything bad to happen. And then if something does happen, you want to make sure that you got your bases covered.
yeah,
And
you want the most pain-free,
yeah,
claims process as possible.
a few years back, I was in an auto accident where I was driving down a street with no, like, basically it was a T junction, and I was just going straight through it. There's no lights, nothing. The other person has a stop sign. The other person decided to make a left turn in front of me. I mean,
Yeah.
when
Luckily, we caught that. But
yeah, it was on my dash cam. I had it 100% recorded. I showed it to my attorneys, which was all recorded right there. It still went to trial. The other person was like, "Oh, you should have saw me with my lights," and we actually pulled up the dash cam footage, and it was clear for not only my attorney but for the other side as well as ICBC that was there to say, okay, well, that's super clear that this person, me, is driving down the street normally with
yeah.
no lights, nothing, just going through a normal intersection like you normally would. You came out of a stop sign without looking, made a left turn, and hit the other driver.
Yeah. I don't get why everyone has to take that. The default mode is to lie and just deny. Like if you get into an accident, and that's the thing, right? Everyone knows someone who's gotten into an accident. 99% of your friends who drive have at some point gotten into an accident. How many of them admit to being the one who caused the accident, right? It's rare. Like statistically, most people deny that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's decent people out there. I'm not saying that there aren't, but just knowing how people's psychology is, I think it can't hurt to have video evidence. Do you have that video still?
Oh yeah, I still do. I still do, but it's saved somewhere that I don't know exactly where it is. But yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah. No, it might give you flashbacks or something. It's pretty intense. I mean, you drove into a tree or like, up
Yeah,
the curb.
so the other driver pushed the front end of my vehicle into oncoming traffic. There was an oncoming vehicle that hit the side of my passenger side, and then my force of still going straight pushed me towards a tree. So I hit three things on the way, to before coming to a complete stop. It
Mm-hmm.
was not a nice experience. It was my first ever auto crash. um I don't want to live through that again because like I still have back pain from that. I never fully healed from it because yeah, just from all the different things. And that the year after that crash was the worst experience I've ever had.
Mm. Yeah, and that's why, yeah, it's really important to protect yourself because this stuff is not cheap. Like driving, we do have to emphasize it is a high risk behavior, as you're way more likely to die from a car accident than you are from stuff like COVID or all the things that we're freaking out about. That's the thing. It's like you really want to protect yourself out there,
Yeah.
and uh, people don't realize how dangerous it is having 4,000 pounds of metal hurling towards you. Um,
And
yeah.
And this little clip that I'm showing right now, for those that you are on YouTube, you can see it. But if you're on our podcast, of course, you can just go to my YouTube and you can find it. But essentially, this is a truck backing up into my friend's car. And my friend wasn't in the car at the time. This is parking mode thanks to the ThinkWare Dashcam. It caught the license plate, and he was able to report this to ICBC. Normally, in this instance, it'll be you pay your deductible, and ICBC will get your vehicle fixed at the cost of your deductible. In this instance, my friend did not have to pay the deductible because he got the instant on Dashcam, and he was able to file that information to follow it through with the other person's insurance.
Exactly. And we for this Civic, we just did the front camera, so it was cheaper than any deductible. So the camera paid for itself in this case. And the damage was pretty big. His grill was destroyed, and
he got a complete front grill and bumper. Headlight was scratched, but they were able to buff that out.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think that's really it for this week. Anything else you want to add on?
No, I think we'll catch you guys next week.
See what kind of exciting news there are, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great day. We'll chat later.
Bye now.